others, exchanging ideas, and hopefully, and exploitation is not the right word, but hopefully using the new technologies and new ideas and innovations that Sweden comes up with in the large frame that India has to offer, thereby bringing in economies of scale, thereby helping becoming more cost competitive and making Swedish technologies get a better outreach across the world. I'm very confident that today's dialogue with my counterparts in Sweden will not only increase bilateral trade, but I hope will kickstart a new era of very close relationships between the two countries. I was mentioning at a dinner at the Honorable Ambassador's house last evening about how the two languages, Swedish and the Indian language of Hindi, use a common phrase, a common word to express relationships. In India, a partnership or a friendship or a close companionship between two people uses the word sambandh. I have a very close relationship with somebody, I say my sambandh with that person is very good. And I believe and I understand that in Swedish also, for relationship you use the word samband, or forgive my pronunciation. But in some sense, our discussions over the last 2 days have focused on bringing both sides together in a closer and even more strategic relationship. And I go back with a lot of confidence about the future of Indo-Swedish engagement and togetherness in the years to come. In fact, the Swedish society can be a great inspiration to many of us back home who are working to reform Indian society and Indian economy, particularly since Sweden has, over the last few years, had significant reform in the way you work, the way you do business, your systems of governance and government, without any social unrest. And that's exactly the way we in India would like to take progress forward. And just like in Sweden, growth and prosperity has been very inclusive. Very innovative ideas have been used. It's been quite egalitarian and equitable. I think that's the role model that we in India would like to follow, so that our poor, our people who have suffered several years and decades and sometimes generations of lost opportunities, also get an equal chance to benefit from progress of mankind, to benefit from new technologies and all the good things that are happening around the globe. India is an ancient society, just like Sweden. Of course, a few thousand years older maybe. We have the world's oldest language in India, the oldest living language, Tamil. We also have one of the world's oldest languages with an unbroken oral tradition, Sanskrit. And if I can borrow a phrase from Sanskrit to explain what reforms mean to India, and in some sense I believe that's what any of us in the world would look at. The phrase in Sanskrit says, Loka samasta sukhina bhavantu. And when I translate it, let all people be happy. Let all the people of the world be happy. And in some sense, I believe we are all working for a better global order, for a better degree of happiness, greater human development indices to serve the underprivileged sections of society across the world. In fact, this was tweeted by the American pop singer Lady Gaga, who in some sense owes her debut to Swedish songwriters. And I would think that she very beautifully put it that we will all have to work for making the people of the world happy, all the people of the world happy. We in India are in a continuous evolution, continuously trying to modernize our socio-economic climate. We've survived years and years of subjugation, we've had invasions over thousands of years, foreign powers coming into the country, geopolitical changes and challenges before us. But we are now focused on combating poverty, we're focused on combating terrorism and climate change. The three biggest challenges that I see before the governments and people of India, and in some sense all our reform is focused towards meeting and addressing these three challenges of poverty, climate change and terrorism. Prime Minister Narendra Modi came into government in 2014 and has focused on a twin track of building a strong macroeconomic framework in which we strengthen the Indian economy to face global challenges, while at the same time simultaneously working to reach the fruits of development to the poorest of the poor, the last man at the bottom of the pyramid, who in some sense, in a way, as my party believes, have the first right on the nation's resources, the poor of the country. And we've been working for the last 5 years to take the benefits of progress, the benefits or even the basic necessities of human existence to large sections of society which remained without these simple interventions for several years. While it's not something that I'm proud of, it's not something that I should probably even be talking about, but I say this, and I say this with pride, that a simple thing like cleanliness and sanitation was an area that remained without focus for decades in our country. And since 2014, when Prime Minister Modi first threw the challenge before the people of India to evolve into a cleaner environment, into a style of living and working which ensures a clean environment, proper sanitation facilities. We have been able to take a simple thing like a toilet to nearly 110 million homes in the last 4.5 years. And can you imagine these 110 million homes were without access to a toilet for generations? A simple thing like a toilet. It has its attendant problems of health. It also has very serious issues about the dignity of women. And I know Sweden focuses a lot about equality and the dignity of women in the country. Prime Minister Modi has over the last 5 years taken several such initiatives to the poorest of the poor, providing cooking gas connections, for example, free of charge to 80 million homes. And over the last 5 years, doubling the number of families and homes with access to cooking gas. We had about 130 million homes which had access to cooking gas before 2014. We nearly doubled that in the last 5 years by adding about 130 million more, of which 80 million were given free of charge to the poor. And then we continue to give them gas cylinders, LPG cylinders at very, very concessional rates to ensure that they don't have to inhale 400 cigarettes equivalent smoke every single day using traditional cooking methods which we've been using for years and years in the past. But this can have huge impact on the healthcare of our women, of our children, who are usually playing around the mother as she cooks, particularly in the young age. And can you imagine the damage we were doing to the health and the future of these young children for so many years? Very often these small things are lost out in large projects and large engagements. But I thought I must sensitize you to these small interventions which have large dimensions in terms of a nation's future, both social and economic. Because at the end of the day, the productivity of a nation would be very much dependent on their happiness of their people, the health care of their people, and their confidence that their nation cares for them. On a similar note, we have embarked on probably the world's single largest healthcare program, the Ayushman Bharat program, which provides decent quality healthcare access free of charge to about 500 million Indian citizens. It guarantees healthcare to nearly 40% of the people of India at the lowest strata of society. And these are people who would otherwise either lose out on any treatment or possibly have to beg, borrow, or steal to be able to treat a near and dear one. And I think it's these small interventions to improve the lives of our people that have been one of the main focus areas on the social front, along with our effort to improve the economy, to prepare the economy to now transition from a nearly $3 trillion economy to a $5 trillion economy by 2024-25. The goal that we've set for ourselves, and if I may take the liberty of quoting ABBA, the pop group that was very much in vogue when I was a college-going student, and I believe also comes from Sweden. In my college days, we had many numbers of ABBA which were probably more famous than the one that I'm going to quote. But if I can borrow from this Swedish group's song, and I quote, "I have a dream, a fantasy, to help me through reality." I can't sing, so pardon me. "And my destination makes it worth the while, pushing through the darkness, still another mile." And I think very succinctly in these four small lines, ABBA literally spoke about the way this government has been working over the last 5.5 years to truly make the aspirations of even the small things turn into reality and meet the dreams of our children for a better future and the hopes and aspirations of 1 billion people aspiring for a better quality of life. What we need in India now are not these incremental steps alone. We are now looking at the high jump. We believe that it's time now to take these measures forward in terms of economic progress in a big way, in empowering our women, empowering those sections of society that have lost out of the development race. And while I was thinking how I should present what we are doing in India, I thought it may be worthwhile to focus on the mindset of the government. Some of what we discussed at lunch today with the Honorable Minister for Foreign Trade in terms of how the Indian government thinks today and how we are working to restructure and reformat governance in India, by which we believe economic growth and social prosperity will be a natural outcome if we can set our agenda of good governance into the realm of almost every action that's happening in the country. And therefore, I thought I'll share with you some of the principles on which good governance of the type that we have tried to engage with over the last 5 years rests. And I think it's these may be simple principles of management that we may be using on a day-to-day basis. But it's these principles that in some sense have helped all of us take the country forward. For example, a simple thing like addressing a concern or a problem that's brought to our attention. Very often I have somebody come up to me and say, I have this problem. Now, it's very easy for me to try and resolve that problem. But it's only when I do a root cause analysis of that problem that I'm able to understand why that problem came in the first place. And with that root cause analysis, I'm able to take out that problem right from the root and ensure that instead of solving one person's or one corporation's problem, can I set the policy or principle right? Can I set the procedure right? So that nobody else has to face that same kind of problem. And a simple thing like a root cause analysis and a structured way to solve a problem based on improving the procedure or process has helped us set a lot of things in order in the country. Similarly, this has been a government that's been focused on very high levels of transparency so that the rule of law prevails equitably and equally for everyone. Unfortunately, over the years, we were not able to create the right kind of image and enabling environment for the country in which people from all over the world should feel comfortable doing work in India, living in India, engaging with government, engaging with businesses in India. And Prime Minister Modi has taken it upon himself to completely change the way we live and work in India and get it recognized by the world as a country which believes in transparency, the rule of law, and honesty. And we are working very hard to create structures and create systems which are completely transparent and honest. There's not been a single allegation of corruption against any of the governments led by our party, whether at the center or in the states, in the last 5 years. And we are working along with the states to bring in more and more transparency in the way government works. Another aspect that has been of focus has been an integrated thinking. How we can ensure an all-round and comprehensive development of different aspects of living, including the lives of the common man. And that integrated thinking includes every aspect. I mean, economic wealth alone cannot bring happiness to people. Ultimately, it will be the social infrastructure around him. It will be his family, his friends, the society that he lives in, the tradition and culture that has been passed down through generations in India, his education, his healthcare, all of these issues, his recreation and leisure for that matter. Unless we address a more holistic and comprehensive lifestyle that each individual is looking for, it is this integrated approach that the government is trying to use. We are trying to see both the physical and mental development of our people. In fact, Prime Minister Modi very recently launched a Staying Fit campaign, encouraging the youth of India to be very conscious about sports, very conscious about yoga. We now have 21st June as an International Yoga Day. I believe we must be celebrating it in Stockholm also through the embassy. And we are working towards making healthcare the last resort and working towards wellness, working towards a preventive healthcare program which includes staying fit, so that the nation really looks after a 360-degree human desire and human existence. And of course, to reach that goal, we are prioritizing the issues. Financial inclusion was one of our first programs we took up. So everybody gets connected to the financial banking system, and we are hoping to move towards the Swedish way of doing business and living, more and more a digital society, less dependent on cash. For that matter, I haven't seen any Swedish currency so far. Both my visits. Similarly, we are looking at partnership with all stakeholders. We are working as a team, breaking the silos of government, getting out of departmental thinking. And we believe that in that partnership, whether it's a partnership between nations when countries like Sweden and India work together, whether it's a partnership between businesses, whether it's a partnership between the people of different countries, and then within the country, it's the partnership of all stakeholders interested in the development of the country. It could be the government, it could be non-governmental organizations, societies that are engaged in dealing with people in different aspects. And in a federal system like India, it's very important that we all work together in that spirit of partnership. Otherwise, taking progress down to the last man, it becomes extremely difficult. So we have the media playing its own role, the judiciary playing an important role, the bureaucracy contributing, our diplomats contributing to successful implementation of partnerships and relationships. And when everybody conspires together, I think that's when success becomes inevitable. Wasn't there that quote about if somebody desires something very, very passionately and very strongly, the entire universe conspires to make that happen. Of course, I think it's a Paul Coelho dialogue or quote, or at least I don't know. It's something that one of the Hindi film stars had brought out in Bollywood very beautifully. And since I see a lot of Indian faces, you remember Shah Rukh Khan saying that. When the desire is extremely deep for something, the entire universe conspires to make that happen. And I think that's the kind of partnership that we are all working in government in India, so that the three big levers of economic potential and economic growth, the three P's of population, participation, and productivity, can all work together and create a surge of prosperity and development for the people of India. We are very seriously focused on time-bound and outcome-oriented actions so that our programs reach the people in an honest and faster way. Faster dispute resolution is an area that we've started focus on. We still have a long way to go. The judicial process and dispute resolution process still is quite long drawn out and cumbersome, but we are very seriously trying to address that issue, which will actually help businesses engage much more with India. Innovative financing is another important element of our thinking in government to help bring more and more infrastructure and development projects to the country. Prime Minister Modi himself is a little bit of a technology buff, but every time you come to Sweden, you see so many new things evolving. And you're amazed at technology reaching newer and newer levels and heights. And we would love to have that technology focus in our country, which is why we are looking at more partnerships between Indian and Swedish businesses. Today we have nearly 200 Swedish businesses in India and over 70 Indian corporations working in Sweden, complementing each other's efforts, leveraging on the high levels of technology and innovation that Sweden has produced, along with a low cost or a reasonable cost, highly skilled manpower and technical expertise that India has to offer, so that Swedish technologies can really start not only serving a large market like India, of 1 billion people aspiring for a better quality of life, but also start serving the rest of the world, the Swedish bouquet of technologies, in a more cost-effective manner. But I thought I'd share with you these various principles of good governance, more so, because I think on these principles rest reforms in economic policy and growth. Unless we set the framework right, unless the foundation is good, we are not going to be able to build a tall skyscraper on that. And we believe the first term of this government has been appreciated by the people of India, giving us an even bigger mandate a few months ago in our second term. More votes and more seats so that we can serve the people better. On the foundation that has been built in the last 5 years, we believe will rest the superstructure of a great economy, of a fast-growing economy, of an economy that's focused to serve every section of society. And for that, we have been selected as ministers or officials to ensure that we continue to monitor all these programs, hold people accountable where they fail, hold ourselves accountable before the people of India in the due performance of our actions, and all the other steps that we are taking to reform our Indian economy, be that the huge steps taken for ease of doing business, be that our effort to improve the infrastructure in the country, be it our efforts to make India more competitive as a nation. All of those statistics, all of that information is given to me to share with you. But I think that's all in public domain. We let Mr. Google do that job for you if you're interested in some more detail of what we are doing in terms of actual actions on the reform agenda. But I thought it would be more interesting to share with you the fundamental principles on which we are all working, which guiding principles are somewhat like the 10 Commandments, which help us in achieving our goals going forward in a defined time frame so that we can prepare India to become that new India of Prime Minister Modi's dreams, the dreams of 1 billion people who want to each own a house, a home of their own, a home which has 24-hour electricity 7 days a week, a home which has access to clean drinking water, a good toilet in that home, internet facility available there, a good road leading up to his home, quality education, quality healthcare near his home, and truly look at the integral development of the human being, integral development of the 1.3 billion people in India. I'm sure this partnership with Sweden will also be one more building block for this superstructure that we're all trying to create. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience.
Thank you very much, Minister, for laying out this holistic vision, combining the smaller items, but so necessary for everyday life, and also the bigger structural parts of the city. I would like to invite Mr. Hellman to ask a few questions and sort of tease out some of the details within this larger vision that you have painted for us.
Thank you, Minister Goyal, for a very inspiring speech. I'm going to ask some questions about India's domestic economy and world trade. Minister Goyal, India is about to become an economic superpower. Over the last few years, you have seen an impressive development. But to reach your full potential, more economic reforms are needed, as you mentioned. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was elected on a reform agenda. He has high aspirations, and he has built a reputation for being a strong politician who really gets things done. At the same time, there are critics who claim that the pace of a reform work is too low. The need for reform is still very big, and the expectations that Prime Minister Modi has created are high. So, Minister Goyal, are you frustrated that the pace of reform work is too low? And now when the government has been re-elected and the EP holds a clear majority in Rossana, pace of reform work to increase?
Absolutely, very well put and very well said. I think what I was trying to articulate was exactly that we needed to have the enabling environment to be able to take forward a number of our initiatives to reform not only the way we work, but the way we think in India. In fact, we are an extremely focused set of persons working in government, both at the bureaucratic side and the political side, with a vision to reach this development to the last man. But clearly, India works in a democratic system with a great deal of pressure of elections every few months in different parts of the country in a federal structure. We have 30 states and everybody working towards a democratic election every 5 years, and that periodicity is not, the months are not defined or the years are not defined. So every 6 months we have elections in different parts of the country. Because of it, there is a lot of lost opportunities where you get into election mode faster than you can get into action on the economic agenda. But despite that, we believe that there's much more that can be done in a faster time frame. When you were asking me the question, I almost felt like you have a crystal gaze into one of the meetings that the Prime Minister has with me very often, in which he's always expressing his demand and desire for much, much more than whatever you can deliver. And you come back thinking, my God, I'd gone to tell him all the good things you've done. And you received a number of more things that you should have done and you've not done. I think it's that continuous state of flux that's both very encouraging and also drives all of us. So in that sense, he doesn't get satisfied with any amount of performance, but I think that's excellent for the people of India, because the country needs so much more, so much faster. I do agree with you, there are very specific areas where we have to look at further simplification of processes. We have to look at ease of doing business at different levels of government, going down to the local governments. We have to ensure how we can make public delivery of services more efficient. We have to build out large amounts of infrastructure. And we are recognizing these challenges, and we are very confident that this term of 5 years is going to be focused on much faster delivery of these reform agendas.
As Minister of Commerce and Industry, what reforms do you think are the top priorities for the government and you to implement during this term? And why are these reforms important for India?
Well, I think we will all have to look at a series of measures. It cannot be a few measures only taking priority over the others, but obviously in terms of what we need to fix first, I think the few issues that come to my mind immediately are issues like the ease of doing business to the next level, so that businesses and people can truly feel empowered and want to engage with India in a hassle-free environment. We'll have to seriously look at making our logistics costs more competitive to be able to compete with competing nations, particularly in Southeast Asia, so that Indian products and services can be better accepted around the world. We have focused a lot on transparency in our first 5 years term. And I think we need to set the last bits of better governance at the lower levels of local government, and within the government bureaucracy. I think this needs to seep down right up to the last man in government to build more transparency, faster delivery of services, and certainly an equitable treatment to all stakeholders. That would be another area, how we can take our efforts to clean up the systems right down to the last man in government. That will be one more area of priority. We have to fix our infrastructure, particularly our port infrastructure, for example. The railway infrastructure, which comes directly under my chart, which has to expand, which has to have much better quality of services, which has to have investments going into technology for safety, technology for proper monitoring and tracking of freight and tracking of goods and trains. We have to ensure better handling facilities at all our ports and logistics stations. So we have a number of areas on the infrastructure side that need to be fixed. And I think also the delivery at the last man in rural India is another area where government is working to see how we can ensure that in the rural India also, we can provide goods and services at an effectively good price, competitive price, and of good quality, so that in some sense we can have global technologies and global products going local. We call that local in India. So we need to ensure that world reaches our rural parts of India, rather than just have large amounts of migration from the rural India to the cities, which is actually burdening the cities to no end and creating problems. So we have our hands full of a lot of activities in terms of action on the ground, but we have a deadline of 2022 when the country celebrates 75 years of independence, and we are working to a defined agenda to achieve in the next 3 years.
One reform proposal that has been on the agenda for a long time is to remove restrictions on investment in India's retail sector. While the government has allowed 100% foreign direct investment in single brand retail like IKEA and H&M, it mandates that foreign firms source 30% of what they sell from local manufacturers. This is understandable, but it can also, for some companies, be a challenge. When it comes to multi-brand retail, there are still a lot of government restrictions that makes it difficult for foreign investments. Minister Goyal, is the Indian government planning further steps to remove barriers for foreign investment in India's retail sector? And can we expect the restrictions on foreign investing in multi-brand retail to be reduced?
No, I wish my daughter was here. Because in my family, when a particular subject is getting to be a little difficult and touchy, she usually immediately comes up with a warning, TT, touchy topic, stay away. And whoever one of us, and it's usually my wife and I, were arguing, quickly realizes that we better back off. But there's absolutely no ambiguity in my mind. We are firm in our decision on this, and for good and valid reasons. In single brand retail, we have opened it up for 100% foreign direct investment. We are permitting them to come and set up shop in India, both online and through brick and mortar. We had that rule of 30% local sourcing, but very recently, about a couple of months back, we've significantly liberalized the rules around single brand retail. So we've allowed that sourcing also to include what is being sourced for their global operations. So now that rule has become so much more flexible. And in any case, once a company, let's say even IKEA comes to India, and they're sourcing in India, knowing IKEA's style of operation, I would suspect they wouldn't source a particular product, let's say this bench or whatever, in small numbers. They would normally develop in their supply chain a supplier, and then the numbers are so large that they would sell in India and internationally. That's usually how I believe these large companies operate. So having allowed their export component of locally produced goods also to be taken into consideration, by and large the complaints or the hesitations that we used to find in single brand companies to come to India, I'm told have gone away. For example, Apple has announced some very ambitious plans, which they were not doing until 2 months ago, to set up base in India, to manufacture and produce in India, and then sell both in India and internationally. And the logic is that the Indian market for the high-end Apple products was obviously small, given our levels of the higher upper middle class being, the numbers being not too large. So they, now with the export market, they find India an attractive proposition to manufacture in a low-cost environment and then serve not only the Indian market but for their exports. And for that, they're happily able to make 30% local sourcing, given that exports also is now considered within that. As far as multi-brand retail is concerned, I would like to categorically state that we are not permitting more than 49% foreign direct investment in multi-brand retail. And that is because there are several large retailers who deal in multi-brand or different brands of goods with very deep pockets, almost zero cost financing available, large amounts of capital available at almost zero, and nowadays in Europe and other places, negative interest rates, negative carry. And in such a situation, these large brand, multi-brand retail has the potential to disrupt millions and millions of small retailers who are serving the consumers and customers across the country. There are different estimates of small retailers, but when we put together all the small retail industry in India, we are looking at possibly 40 or 50, 55 million small retail stores, giving employment and livelihood to nearly about 120 million people, which would mean nearly half the population of the country. Now, that's a large sector which we would not like to disrupt. I read a lot of research about how these large multi-brand retail have killed small businesses in other parts of the world. We in India believe the small retailer has a big role to play in India's economy. We would like to protect them from unfair competition, and therefore we do not permit FDI beyond 49% in multi-brand retail.
A question about trade, international trade. India's largest trading partner is China. Not surprisingly, complaints have arisen that China-made products are hurting small-scale industries in India. And the influential Confederation of All India Traders, which has 70 million members, has been calling for a boycott on Chinese products. The group claims that Chinese exporters indulge in unfair trade practices, cut corners on quality and cost, and pay fewer taxes. It has urged the government to impose harsh custom duties ranging from 300 to 500% on Chinese products. From an emotional perspective, this is would be understandable, but experts say that such actions would hurt India much more than China. So, Minister Goyal, what is your view on this? And is there a risk of a trade war between India and China? And what can the Indian government do to avoid such a development?
Well, before I answer that, in India we have a television anchor. Some of the Indians here may be familiar with Arnab Goswami. He's one of the toughest television anchors, very aggressive. You're of course much softer. But he asks some of the most difficult questions. And I don't know whether he's taken training under you in Sweden. But, well, as India is a very open economy, rule-based economy, and rule-based trading country, we don't have any plans as such to boycott any country, boycott the goods of any country, or boycott trade with any country. That's not a part of Indian government's agenda and shall never be. We believe in an open and transparent trading system. However, there are complaints about certain economies, certain geographies which don't have an equally transparent way of working. Their systems of subsidizing their exports are quite opaque at times. Very often we find that products that come in from certain countries, the cost of raw material in India may be more than the cost of a finished product that comes from there into the country with packing and transport included. I can't see anything, but I hope this is a Swedish product. But
Imported from China.
is that?
I don't know.
I hope you have a rule that says you have to write the country of origin. You say that. But well, as far as China is concerned, I think there have been several concerns raised many parts of the world about their systems of costing, about their systems of product pricing, the systems of protecting intellectual property rights, the way they subsidize some of their processes. And those concerns have often been a matter of debate in India also. The government of India is conscious of it and is vigilant to see that any of that does not harm our Indian domestic industry. Over the last many years, we've seen trade with China grow significantly. We run a huge trade deficit with China. And being conscious of that, we are looking to see how we can expand trade, but also try to make it more equitable. I'm in dialogue with the Chinese counterparts from the Ministry of Trade there, and they recognize that this will be a concern that they will have to address, particularly after their recent experiences with other parts of the world. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to discuss and find a proper resolution of this issue, and may not have to go down the way of imposing actions which are more of trade remedial measures, which end of the day, in one way I can agree with you, will always impact trade both ways. But I think the better way is that we work together, as I said earlier, as partners, as stakeholders, to right-size the issue, bring more transparency and more, let's say, more sanity into the trading system. That would be the way I would like to approach it.
Thank you very much. I have many more questions, and it's very interesting to listen to you. But I think our time is up.
Yes.
My God, he's like Arnab Goswami's super guru.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Mr. Goyal, for sharing your views and thoughts on this issue and providing such a broad and also detailed understanding of where India is at this juncture. And also thank you to Mr. Hellman, the Swedish Arnab Goswami, Republic TV, for this interesting debate that we have had, discussion and conversation. And I hope you all join me in a round of applause for please come and visit us again soon when we have an excellent program of interesting seminars around that. Thank you.
Thank you.